holler at us before you leave, so we'll give that to you. Before I get started, I'm going to start making our desserts, but I want to tell you all a little bit about SouthernPlate.com and how I ended up here. Excuse me. I was walking over here while I was walking to the Student Center a while ago to get ready to sign books, and my friend Jamie, who has just been wonderful at helping me keep my sanity intact during all this, I told her we were walking over there, and she said, "You ready? You ready?" And I said, 2 years ago, I started a blog talking about, what my kids and my family was doing. And I said, I didn't have this in mind. I never planned this. Some of the most wonderful things in our life happen when we don't plan it. And I ended up with a family of millions of people, and whom I dearly love, and I feel love from them every day. It's just wonderful. I started out on a little free blog on Vox.com. You can go and sign up for a little free blog. You don't have to do any design or anything. You log in, I'd say, we went and ate pizza today, and I read this book from Harlequin. It was really good. It was one of those $3.99 ones at Walmart, and I'd give my little reviews and everything, just talking. Well, I had a friend up north. And I say that like it's a foreign land. I've got to get up there more. I don't get out much. But I had a friend up north who had never had homemade banana pudding. And I am of the, see, I heard somebody. Can I get a name in? Homemade banana pudding. And I believe that a life without homemade banana pudding is a wasted existence. But she didn't, thank you, she didn't know how to cook. And you can't just give somebody a recipe and say, here, make a homemade pudding from scratch and don't scorch it. So I decided to post step-by-step photos of how to make that on my blog. And the next day, Vox featured it on their homepage. Well, that just got me so excited. I thought, okay, what else can I do? So I did my mama's mandarin orange cake. And the next day, Vox featured that on their homepage. So then I did fried green tomatoes. I'm on this roll, 3 recipes in 3 days. And the next day, that was featured in their homepage on a headline right by a big old picture of llamas. And I called my mama, and I said, I am as famous as the llamas. I was so proud. And I called my husband at work, and I said, I bet you if I got my own domain, we could get 400 or 500 readers. That was my goal. I wanted 400 or 500 readers. So we bought SouthernPlate.com, and that first month we had 50,000 page views. It just kind of took off. And then every month after that, it would double. And now, I think in 2009, we had over 43 million page views. And I don't pay a lot of attention to the stats myself because they're just numbers. I understand people and faces and numbers. I don't process them too well. But my engineer husband currently likes to give me 5-minute updates on the stats on Southern Plate. When the Southern Living feature came out, what are our stats now, Ricky?
23,000 a day.
You're getting 23, 25,000 a day right now. Paige, isn't that crazy? And I think, well, it's just easy food. It's the stuff I grew up on, and that's the cool thing about Southern food. Southern food in its classic form is quick and easy, and it's inexpensive. And I say because we were tired and we didn't have any money. My great-grandmother was a sharecropper, and they would work in the fields all day long. I look at these cotton fields, and I say, oh, isn't that beautiful? The cotton field is in full bloom. Our grandma would say, oh, gosh, that cotton just cut your fingers, and it's so hot. I mean, she does not have the same fondness for cotton as I do. Grandmama is here right now, actually. Grandmama, stand up. This is my grandmother, Lucille. About Grandmama Lucille, check out the December issue of Guidepost. There's going to be a really great story on Grandmama in there, and pictures of me and Mama and Grandma and my kids and passing down the cooking heritage. But Leela, my great-grandmother, she'd go back up to the house around lunchtime, leave the kids in the field, and she'd dig up some lunch. She'd go in her garden, dig up some things, and go and fry up some potatoes and stuff, and that would be their lunch. And they had very difficult lives, and they had every reason to complain and to be grumpy and just be mad at the world, but they didn't. They had an attitude of waking up every morning grateful for the day. They saw the wealth around them. And that's the legacy of Southern cooking. People will often tell me, I cooked this recipe that my grandmother gave me, but it just doesn't taste like hers. Every time they say that, I can guarantee their grandmother's passed away. And the reason it doesn't taste like hers is because it was made by somebody that loved you. And so that's what we have to do with our cooking. When you cook for somebody, Southern food is not just to feed somebody. It's an act of love. And that's what it's all about. That's the secret ingredient in our food, and that's why it's so special. And if y'all will bear with me for just a minute, I've got one passage I'm going to read in my book. And what I tried to do in my book is You know, when a friend gives you a recipe, they don't just give you a list of ingredients and instructions. They tell you where they got it from, why it's so good, who eats it, you know. They tell you about the time that they made it, and their grandmother might have, I made lemon bars one time. Grandma was looking, oh gosh, she's going to tell this. Grandma was going to make Kathy's house for Thanksgiving, and I said, well, Grandma, I'm cooking lemon bars today. I'll just make you an extra batch, and you can take that for Thanksgiving. Don't you worry about making anything. So she pulls into my driveway. I didn't know Grandma had never had lemon bars before. And I run out to the car with a thing of lemon bars, and on the way there, she opens the lid just to get a little bite, you know. You're not supposed to give anybody anything unless you've eaten it first to make sure it's good. And then I asked her later, I said, Grandmama, how do they like the lemon bars? And she said, well, she said, I'm going to tell you what. She said, I've never had one of them before. And she said, I was a little hungry when I was on the way over there, so I opened that lid and I ate me one of those. And she said, Lord, that was good. So I ate me another one. And she said, by the time I got in there, I'd eaten 3 or 4 of those things, and I thought, you know, they probably don't want these things anymore. She left in the car, and she just told us she didn't have time to cook nothing to get back home with her. So, all right. But that's the legacy, you know, the legacy of Southern cooking is appreciating what you have, being able to see the true wealth in your life, and I think that's what binds us all together on SouthernPlate.com. That's what makes us a family, and that's really what I kind of preach, you know, is how wealthy we are. And nowadays, with the economy and everything, you know, we're really in very similar positions to our Southern ancestors, you know, and I think we need to realize that and see the parallel there. And kind of go back to how they did things. You know, we're going back to eating at the dinner table. We're going back to cooking our food again. And I want to read to you a passage, and I promise I talk fast if y'all haven't learned, so it won't take long. Why life is good right now. And this is in my cookbook. And it's got, this is that picture that's on the website that I was telling y'all should use in your gardens, you know, keep out squirrels, rats, rabbits, anything. Okay. For many of us, times are more difficult now than we can remember them ever being. Even if your lifestyle hasn't changed, the impact of others' lives having changed so much is still there. This is something that weighs heavily on my heart because I see so many people filled with worry, yet on the same token, I also see so many positive changes coming about as a result. You see, sometimes bad things exist only to pave the way for more good things. And these days, I feel that's just what's happening. It's all in your perspective for the most part. Maybe we have less. Maybe we eat at home more as a family around a dinner table filled with something cooked from scratch by someone who loves us. Maybe we have fewer preservatives and red dye number 40 and a little more biscuits and milk gravy. My great Aunt Louise used to say many a family would have starved if it wasn't for biscuits and gravy, and that was very true back in the day. Maybe we sit and drink our coffee at the breakfast table instead of in a paper cup handed to us through a drive-through window. Maybe we buy the kids fewer toys. When I was little, I had the best rocket ships, doll cradles, and telephone system around, all made from empty oatmeal canisters. I'd spend hours crafting them, gluing paper on them to cover up the labels, and then design the new look with crayons. Mama would give me old wash rags to use as blankets, and then she and I would take scraps and sew little pillows by hand for my dolls or astronauts to use. Folks will pay good money for that kind of entertainment for their kids these days, and yet it still sits in the same place it has for generations. On the pantry shelf, just waiting to offer up a nutritious breakfast or a comfy nap space for Dolly. Sometimes we need to realize that something bad can come along to help us take our eyes off of something worse. And realize that what we have at the core of things is something really, really good. I'm not saying we don't appreciate the good things in life or that we've lost our sense of values. Just that perhaps now that the glaring beeping things before us have toned down a bit, in the silence it's not quite so hard to hear when a child whispers your name or to see that expectant smile aimed at your direction. Still, I hope that everyone gets more money and those without become those with again. Of course I wish the best for everyone, but chances are there's something pretty darn good right with you right there now. It might even be waiting to curl up in your lap, or for you to simply look up and take notice. All my life I dreamed of having a family. I have 2 gorgeous, happy, and healthy kids and a husband who loves us all. He has to. I keep him fed. Just because the price of groceries has gone up doesn't make my dream any less realized. I don't know if I'm willing to go out on a limb as an authority and say that there is good in everything bad, but I can tell you there's been good in everything that I've seen so far. I may not be eating steak or wearing expensive clothes. I may not drive a fancy car. My bank balance may be woefully lacking in digits. But just take a look at all that I have in my life, things that money could never buy, and don't you tell me that I'm not rich.